Jamaica's journey as a nation has been shaped by powerful leaders with bold visions for the future. From the creation of our national identity to modernizing the economy, our prime ministers have left their mark. But which visions truly stand out? In this video, we'll be counting down the top 10 visions from Jamaica's prime ministers that changed the course of our history. Some of these ideas are still influencing us today. Stick around, because number 2 might just surprise you. Starting our list at number 10 is Donald Sangster. His tenure was tragically short. Despite this, Sangster's focus was on maintaining economic stability and encouraging development during Jamaica's early years. However, his plans didn't have the chance to fully unfold due to his untimely passing. Still, his legacy remains one of stability during a very critical period in Jamaica's history. Although his contributions were somewhat overshadowed by his sudden death, his leadership in those early years was foundational. Now, moving up the list, we find another leader whose time in office was brief, but whose impact is still worth mentioning. At number 9, we have Bruce Golding. His vision included tackling corruption, improving governance, and initiating much-needed constitutional reforms. However, his administration faced major challenges, most notably the Dudas Coke extradition scandal, which somewhat overshadowed his efforts to modernize Jamaica's political system and address crime. Despite these struggles, his legacy includes the significant steps he took toward transparency and institutional reform. Golding's time in office marked some important changes in Jamaica's political landscape. His ambitious vision was marred by scandals and internal challenges, but his push for transparency and reform remains notable. From a leader with unrealized ambitions, we now turn to someone who held power during a time of stability, but whose vision didn't break new ground. Number 8 is Hugh Shearer, who served from 1967 to 1972. Shearer's vision focused on economic growth, especially through industrial development and modernization. His leadership saw a focus on building Jamaica's industrial landscape, yet his time didn't produce the deep, transformative changes that others achieved. Still, he played a significant role in keeping Jamaica's economy stable during a time of global uncertainty. His leadership was steady, but didn't have the bold, sweeping changes seen under other leaders. His work in industrial development helped set the foundation for economic stability, but the lack of significant reforms limits his position on the list. At number 7, we have Portia Simpson-Miller, Jamaica's first female prime minister. Her vision was deeply focused on social upliftment, especially for women and the poor. She pushed for policies aimed at improving the lives of the marginalized, like the expansion of social safety nets. However, despite her admirable people-centered approach, her leadership didn't quite have the far-reaching transformation that other leaders accomplished during their terms. Portia's tenure was defined by her people-centered policies, particularly in social welfare. Her impact on the Jamaican people was significant, but critics argue that the long-term vision she had didn't bring the transformative economic change that Jamaica needed. Coming up next is a leader whose contributions were deeply institutional, though his vision remains controversial. At number 6, we have Edward Seaga, who served from 1980 to 1989. Seaga's vision for economic modernization led to the creation of lasting institutions like the Jamaica Stock Exchange and HERT NSTA Trust. These institutions gave Jamaica a foundation for future growth. However, his policies were often seen as favoring the wealthy and widening the gap between the rich and poor, which places him here on our list. Seaga is remembered for economic reforms and modernizing Jamaica's economy, yet his policies were controversial for exacerbating inequality. His market-driven policies didn't always benefit the wider population, especially the poor, which positions him just outside the top 5. Now let's turn to a leader whose vision focused on the working class. At number 5, we have Sir Alexander Bustamante, Jamaica's first prime minister and one of the founding fathers of the nation. His vision was centered on labor rights, creating fairer working conditions for Jamaicans. Bustamante was instrumental in the establishment of labor unions and workers' rights. His leadership was pivotal during the early years of Jamaica's independence, but his vision didn't push as far as some later leaders who focused on wider social reforms. Bustamante laid the groundwork for modern Jamaica, especially in labor rights, but his focus was primarily on workers' conditions. His legacy is foundational, though it didn't evolve as much as others' visions. From our first prime minister, we move to a modern leader shaping Jamaica's future today. At number 4 is Andrew Holness. Currently serving as Prime Minister, Holness's vision is all about modernizing Jamaica, especially through improving infrastructure and embracing digital technology. For example, the North-South Highway, which cuts down travel time between Kingston and Ocho Rios, is a huge win for everyday Jamaicans, whether you're a business owner needing faster transport or a tourist visiting the island. On top of that, Holness has been pushing for digital transformation, things like online tax payments and the rollout of broadband across the country to make life easier and more efficient. These changes mean Jamaicans can do more things online, like paying bills or checking government services from the comfort of their homes, which is a big deal, especially for those in rural areas who would otherwise have to travel long distances. Holness's emphasis on modernizing Jamaica's infrastructure and digital economy makes him a major player in the country's future. His vision has been forward-thinking, laying the groundwork for Jamaica to be competitive on the global stage. However, as his work is still in progress, it's difficult to fully assess his long-term impact. Now we enter the top 3, where the competition gets intense. Taking the 3rd spot is P.J. Patterson, Jamaica's longest-serving Prime Minister. His vision focused on making Jamaica more connected with the world, and he left a lasting legacy through things like the Highway 2000 project. If you've ever traveled from Kingston to Montego Bay, you've felt the impact of this highway. It's a faster, safer route that makes travel easier for everyone, from families on holiday to businesses moving goods. Patterson also pushed for Jamaica's involvement in global trade, making the island more attractive for foreign investment and boosting industries like tourism. His vision wasn't just about today, it was about positioning Jamaica for success in the future. Patterson's reign oversaw major infrastructural and economic reforms that have shaped Jamaica today. His focus on infrastructure laid the foundation for future economic growth, but some argue that his vision didn't radically transform Jamaica's social fabric in the way other leaders have. Next, we celebrate a leader whose vision laid the foundation for Jamaica's independence. At number 2 is Norman Manley. Though he wasn't a prime minister, Manley played a critical role as premier before independence, helping Jamaica break free from British rule and carve out its own identity. His vision for a self-governing Jamaica set the stage for everything we enjoy today, from our democratic systems to our national pride. Norman Manley fought for the working class, ensuring that the foundation was laid for a better life for everyday Jamaicans. Without his push for independence, our country wouldn't have the freedom to build the future that we're still working towards today. Finally, let's reveal the leader whose vision for equality and social justice forever transformed Jamaica. Taking the number 1 spot is Michael Manley. His vision for social and economic equality truly made him a champion of the people. Manley's policies, from free education to land reform, empowered Jamaicans, especially the poor and working class. For many, he was the voice of the voiceless, fighting for a fairer society where everyone had an equal chance. Even though his leadership had its controversies, there's no denying that his bold decisions changed the course of Jamaican history. Free education meant more opportunities for young Jamaicans to rise above their circumstances, and land reforms gave many a chance to own their own piece of Jamaica. Michael Manley's legacy as a social reformer and his deep commitment to equality and empowerment make him the most impactful prime minister in Jamaica's history. His policies reached the core of society, from the working class to the education system, which had lasting effects on the nation's development. So, there you have it, our ranking of Jamaica's prime ministers based on their vision and impact. But remember, this is just my perspective, and there's always room for different opinions. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who would you have ranked differently? Drop your rankings and thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into Jamaica's history and culture. Thanks for watching.